Get my 6. I kind of have a few stories and one for you here today. I definitely owe you a story about my cat, Cleopatra, because those of you who watch my beautiful bride, Dearly's channel, aka Giggly Girl, her channel's name is Life with Dearly, know that in her last 2 videos in which I also appear with her, I made mention of this, but I never gave details about something very terrifying and traumatic happening to my little kitty this summer while my wife and son were in the Philippines. And it's tied together with our livestock. A lot of folks have been asking about our livestock. How's our livestock doing? They're dead, all of them. This heinous creature devoured our livestock without a trace. Many of you have heard this story from my wife's channel, but for those of you who are not over there yet, I'll just tell you, the quality of your life is not as high as it could be if you subscribe to my beautiful wife, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl's channel, Life with Dearly. Your quality of life would just be much higher if you subscribed and watched her videos too. But if you've not done that thus far, I will kind of give you the backstory on this. But first, I want to show you this, fresh from the garden, because a lot of folks have said, what about the garden too? They're like, what about the livestock? What about the garden? What about the peas and corn? This is a homesteading channel. Shouldn't you be doing something like that? Check it out. Brah. Potato. Look at that. Isn't it beautiful? We have a freaking garden filled with these. Today we harvested for, look, there's like a face. It's like one of them big fish that live in the bottom of the ocean minus the lantern. Oh wait, no, watch, I got it. Look. There's the lantern lighting up looking for his food, which leads us to the onion. Look at that. Beautiful. Tons of onions. Potatoes. You want to see the garden update, go watch Dearly's channel. She put that video on there today, something about the garden. She thought it was a wreck because it was covered with weeds. But there's so much food in there. And right now, as I'm making this video, what she likes to do is take potatoes and cut them up like French fries and then air fry them in her Food Ninja. It's like a air fryer thing, so it's super healthy. Let me swallow my saliva. Just thinking about it makes my mouth water. So that's part of dinner tonight. And then plus she's cooking pork legs, like the joint where the hip goes. Oh, it's like a Filipino dish she's making. It's I've got to spit. Okay, I got to stop talking about food because it's whatever. It's just making my mouth water. So all right. And there's another story in here too, and I'm going to kind of get to it. So, we had chickens, we had rabbits, and I shut them up. It's not that I didn't shut them up. If you've been watching the channel for a while, at least since last Christmas, you'll remember I told a story about a time when we went out to buy a Christmas tree from a Christmas tree farm very close to where we live. We had our beautiful little artificial tree up that we got at the Goodwill for $4 when we first moved here 5 years or so ago. And it's great. We use that tree every year. And so now we've gotten it down to where we pay like 75 cents per year for the Christmas tree. But our first year here, we used a live Christmas tree. And Dearly liked how it kind of gave that pine smell to the house. So this past Christmas, she wanted to, even though we had our little artificial tree up and it's beautiful, she wanted to have a live tree again as well. So we went to this little Christmas tree farm just over the hill from us, and bought one. It's you get to cut it down yourself and all these things. And then so we used that downstairs in the living room. We took our artificial one, carried up into our son Daniel's room because he wanted to have his own Christmas tree. So we put that up there. I met a very interesting woman that owns this Christmas tree farm, and she told me about how she's seen on either 2 or 3 occasions a mountain lion on her property, which again, it's several miles and it takes a while to get there driving because it's this kind of thing. We're out here, we're in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, so it's like this. But as the crow flies, it's half the distance. So it wouldn't be far for an animal, a bear, a deer, a puma, cougar, mountain lion to travel. It was an interesting story, and I know that, and I believe her. I absolutely believe her. And I've heard some strange things around here, as many of you have who've been viewing the channel for a while. And I Googled it and I did some searches, and I found that in another community not far from us the other way, there are several folks who have had sightings as well. So now supposedly these things don't exist in this part of the world anymore. I don't believe that. I just simply don't. I don't know if they were reintroduced, by the powers that be, or if they simply made a comeback naturally. Either case is possible. But I'm going to tell you this part of the story that woman told me. She told me she had a neighbor that lived the next ridge over that raised either goats or sheep. And he kept seeing it too, or one of them. He kept seeing a cougar, mountain lion, puma. And he called the people you're supposed to call when you see these things. And they told him, no, that's not what you saw. You're confused because these things don't exist here anymore. They've been extrapolated or something. There's some word, I always forget the word, but it's when it's not eradicated or not extinct. But when you get rid of a certain species just in a particular area, it's like, whatever. Somebody knows the word. I don't know. I should know it. I'm a writer. Go buy a print copy of my book, The Lunatic, from our Etsy store. Links in the description box. Bam! You get an autograph in it when you buy it from Etsy. So anyway, she says the guy was like, okay, and he talked to her and he said, next time I see one, I'm going to dispatch it because it's killing my sheep or my goats, whatever it was he raised. So some time passed and another one came around. He shot it, dispatched it, and buried it. Okay, buried it. And the woman told us that she told him that 20 minutes after that happened, these black trucks showed up, dug this thing up, threw it in the trucks, and one of the trucks sped the heck out of there and got out of there. Didn't even try to talk to the property owner. And almost as if they didn't want people to know that these things were here. And they were afraid maybe someone might find the body. They wanted to take that body away and destroy the evidence, so to say. I have no problem believing a story like that whatsoever. So this summer, while my family was in the Philippines and I was here trying to do everything, in the video, Dearly's complaining about the garden, all these weeds. Man, I had to take care of the gardens, the livestock. Then we had that 80 feet tall white pine fall. I've been cutting that up all on my own, plus taking care of the 6 acres. That 0-turn mower I got makes it a lot easier. And then, and not to mention, I wrote an entire novel the first 2 months they were gone. It's called The Lunatic. And if you have not read that yet, your quality of life is lower than it could and should be. You need to get that book. And that was probably just a camel. All right, so anyway, but the garden produced a lot. Potatoes, onions, asparagus is doing great. But the livestock just vanished. And it vanished in one night. Okay? Now, we've had foxes, raccoons, take chickens before, take rabbits. There's always evidence of a struggle. There's always a clear crime scene, so to say. And I'm just using, human jargon here. Listen, I've never begrudged a fox or a raccoon or any sort of predator in nature for getting our chickens or our rabbits at times. It happens. And those of you who have livestock, it happens. And these animals are merely trying to survive themselves. They have to eat. And this is what they eat: chickens and rabbits and livestock and all these things. And most times in the past when it happens, when it has happened, it's happened because of, it's been my fault. You know, these foxes especially, and there's tons of them around here, like a lot. Like there's been times we've had chickens in the backyard, you know, inside their pen. You look out and there's a fox just laying there on its belly looking at the chickens, like trying to figure out how to get in the fence. You open the door, you're like, hey, get on out of here, which is Appalachian American for get on out of here. And the foxes just look at you and they like lick their paw and clean their ears and they go back to looking at their chickens. They don't care. They're very persistent. If they know you have chickens, they will come around every night. Every night. They just do their rounds. When that sun goes down, this livestock, these are not livestock, but wildlife comes out and they do their rounds. And you can lock your chickens up every night for 287 nights in a row. But on that 288th night, you just simply forgot. You were caught up in watching the game. You fell asleep early. Maybe you were out seeing friends, or you're having dinner in town and it happened to be winter. So by the time you got home, it's already dark because it gets dark at 5. That fox or those foxes will get those chickens. I mean, that's why, you know, really to do it right, I've never done this, but I would recommend getting those doors that have timers on them. That's the only way, really. So anyway, but when that happens, and here's the point I'm getting at, there's feathers. You can see feathers, or with the rabbits, there's fur. You can see where there was a struggle. And a lot of times you go 100 yards into the field or out into the woods, and you'll actually find what's left of the chicken or the rabbit, because the fox will get it, have to catch it, fight it. They'll drag it away where they feel like they're safe to just stop and eat, and they'll stop and they'll eat, and they'll get their fill, and they just leave what's left. You know, I was cycling the other day. I did like a 18-mile loop. This is like 3 days ago. And I found a half-eaten chicken by the road. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I thought, well, I know what they go through because it's happened to us. But this time it was entirely different. There was no feathers. There was no fur. There was no trace. Just the livestock was gone, almost as if they had been abducted by a UFO. No, I don't think that's what happened. But it made me think about these mountain lions, these cougars, these pumas, and I'm not trying to, oh no, God, watch out, there's mountain lions right here. But I've never seen a fox or a raccoon or any other predator we're familiar with here hunt like this. Well, except maybe. But I really don't think that was the case. You know, I know I've blamed a lot of stuff around here on the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch that may or may not live in the woods up here behind my house. I don't think it's the case. I think it's, but listen, we can't rule out logic. And there's another predator that lives here. And if you live anywhere from the mid-Atlantic, eastern part of the U.S., mid-Atlantic, like say Tennessee, all the way up the East Coast, up into Maine, and then into Canada, and especially in Canada. And we got a lot of viewers from Canada, and we're so happy about that. We appreciate you being here, as we do our viewers from around the world. Been mailing a lot of books to Australia. Listen, if you're watching, your books are sent. They're on their way. It might take them a month to get there, but they're on the way. In England, can't forget all of our fans in England. Love you guys. Everywhere around the world, okay? Everywhere. One planet, one people, right? That's our philosophy here. But there's this really interesting animal called a fisher. A lot of people call it a fisher cat. And because it kind of looks like a cat, they say that they weigh 8 pounds, like an adult male. They're about twice the size of a house cat. These things, potentially, are the most fierce predators in their region. Pound per pound, okay, their jaws, when they bite, they have stronger jaw pressure than a wolverine, which is out west in the U.S. They have lightning fast speed. We picked up a scream on a video, I think it was last year. It was a terrifying scream. I was down in the yard. I was getting ready. I started recording, did the thing with my eyeball, said get my 6 and all that, and started to come up here to the campground. And it just shrieked from the forest. I mean, it sounded like a banshee. And a couple people in the comments section said that's a fisher. They've heard them where they live. So I started Googling this thing and finding out about it. And they do have this very unique scream that sounds like a banshee. And their territory, I've told you their territory, Canada down the East Coast down to about Tennessee. So I went to YouTube and I started looking for videos on fisher cats. I found a video, some guy that lives not far from me over in the Shenandoah Valley, got a beautiful area over there. We go kayaking down there sometimes, catfishing in the Shenandoah River down, and we go to those Luray Caverns. It's a beautiful place. And there's this guy, most of you watching this would know. I should have brought the picture up, but I never thought of it. You remember the Dukes of Hazzards, the TV show? You remember Cooter, the mechanic? He lives over that way, and he's got like a restaurant and stuff. We met him last summer, I think. We went there. We stopped to eat on the way to Luray Caverns, and he just happened to be in there that day. And he saw Dearly, and he came up to her and just started talking. Which, I mean, why wouldn't he, right? I mean, and they talked for like 20 or 30 minutes, and I was trying, hey, I watched you when I was growing up. And he's like, oh, that's nice. So tell me more about where you're from, young lady, the Philippines. You know, but we got pictures and stuff. We actually have one hanging on our wall. That's neat. Was just meeting the guy that I grew up watching as a kid from that show, you know. And he wasn't being inappropriate. You know, he's a wonderful older man. He's like almost 80 now. But where he lives over there, I found a video of this fisher on a trail cam. A guy picked it up. So I kept watching, kept doing some research. And I watched a video where one of these things was chasing a gray squirrel up a tree, up a tree and then in a tree. Have you ever seen gray squirrels, how fast they are going around like this, going like this? If you ever, you know, squirrel hunted, you know, especially with the 22, it can be so frustrating. These fishers are so fast, that thing caught that squirrel. Nothing, listen, and they will come after your cats. And this brings us to our story. It was 6 weeks or so ago. And I was upstairs, in the bedroom that I've converted my office. I was up there. I was going back and forth. You know, our master bedroom's downstairs. And while my wife wasn't here, it's like I just couldn't get comfortable. So some nights I'd sleep up there, and then some nights I'd sleep down there. Some nights I slept on the couch. It sucked. It was a long 3 months. I'm glad it's over. So, but I was up there watching a certain movie series because my wife loves it. I've never seen it, and they just put out another one, Fast and the Furious. Okay, I've never seen them, but she loves it, and I saw that they put out a new one. I thought, oh, when she gets back, I want to go to the movies with her and watch this. But I better watch the first 8 because I never have. Because she's always told me I wouldn't like them. She says there's no really distinct storyline. It's not challenging mentally. It's like, hey, we're going to go steal these cars. And there's a bunch of cool cars and some moderately attractive people and whatever, and they go fast. And I'm like, oh, there's got to be more to it than that for it to be so popular, right? If so many people liked it based upon just that, we would be in the days of Idiocracy. You remember that movie, Idiocracy? So, man, I watched the first 4, and I said, oh, my heavens, I think we're living in the days of Idiocracy, because it did nothing for me. And I told her, I said, honey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to watch 5, 6, 7, and 8, but I'll still go to the movies with you to watch part 9. And she laughed, and she said, yeah, I didn't think you'd like it. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm upstairs watching Fast and Furious Part 4, and I hear my cat, Cleopatra, outside let out a shriek like I have never heard her let out in my life and in her life since I've had her. I've had her since she was 6 months old, got her from the SPCA. So I instantly ran downstairs, grabbed the flashlight, and grabbed my crayon. It's not really a crayon, if you know what I'm saying. Got to watch what you say on social media. People have asked, you have crayons that aren't crayons? And I've said, try crawling through my window about 2 a.m. and you'll find out. Those people never came back. I don't know why they would ask me that. I don't know why they would ask me that. But anyway, I grabbed my flashlight, my crayon, it's not a crayon, ran outside. I go out the back door and I go over to the side of the yard and I turn my flashlight down into the fruit orchard, and I just see these eyes glowing. And they looked like cat eyes. And I thought it was Cleopatra. I was like, Cleopatra, is that you? And then all of a sudden, the eyes just disappeared, almost as if they were just shut. So I walk over there, and there's nothing there by the time I get there. So whatever it was, it turned and left. But when it did that, I never heard it. I never saw it, other than the eyes. my cat's gray, and I've been out here at night. You know, a couple nights ago, I did a Bigfoot Sasquatch night hunt, and Cleopatra was in the video, and I shined the flashlights on her. You can, or the flashlight, I only had one. You can clearly see her. Her fur, if she's down here 50 yards down the trail, and I shine a light down there dark, I can see her. Whatever this thing was, I couldn't see, so I'm assuming it was black. Now, its eyes were not high enough to be a bear, so I don't believe it was a black bear. What was that? That's just a pine tree. All right, stories creep me out when I tell them up here. You know, when I came up yesterday for the video, there were 2 little fawns and a doe. Okay, today when I'm coming up, I see a doe up here feeding in the meadow. I'm like, oh, there's another deer. I brought my truck up because I brought the fire pit and some stuff up. We're going to have dinner up here this evening once she... Oh, I got to do it right. All right. So there's this doe, but then I turn the truck around, and back here behind the woodpile behind me, this 4-point buck stands up and walks off, and then 6 other deer just stand up from out of nowhere. Anything could be up here, so that's why I'm a little jumpy. It's like, could be a fisher, or it could be a puma. Couldn't find Cleopatra that night. I looked and looked and looked and looked. Well, she has this secret place where she goes underneath our house, and I don't know how she figured this thing out. But the opening is just big enough for her to get in, and if there's anything bigger than her, like a fox or anything chasing her, they can't get in there. I never thought to look there that night, but obviously that's where she went because I couldn't find her. And then the next day, she didn't come out until like 4 or 5 in the evening, in the afternoon, and she was terrified. And she stayed in the house for 2 weeks. She wouldn't go out, and she's an outside. She goes in to like eat and have me pet her, and then hiss and scratch at Dearly and Daniel, and then she comes back out. She's like feral almost. Was it 2 weeks? It was a while. It might have been 2 weeks. She wouldn't even go out. Something terrified her. But that next day, when I went out on the back porch, I found a ton of her hair that had been ripped off of her, and I found claw marks on our back porch. It's like a patio. It's like slate, like stone. Claw marks like this. It appeared as if something had grabbed her from behind and was dragging her away, and she just stuck her claws out like this, trying to hold on. Somehow she got away from whatever this creature was. I don't think it was this guy, not you know, me, this guy, but Bigfoot Sasquatch. I honestly don't think it was Bigfoot Sasquatch. I think it was either a puma or a fisher cat. Fisher is the appropriate term, but some people call it a fisher cat because they kind of look like cats. If you've never seen these animals, look them up. And if you do have cats, they will kill your cat. Your cat cannot escape a fisher. So that I kind of think that might, I think my cat might have gotten attacked by a cougar. And this happened about just days after our livestock just disappeared, just vanished. So in my mind's eye, I kind of think the cougar jumped the fence, carried the stuff off. But 4 chickens and 8 rabbits in one night? We have no idea what lives in the woods behind our homes once that sun goes down. I think I've just talked myself into having dinner inside tonight instead of out here. See you for more next time from Homesteading Off the Grid and whatever the hell this channel's about.